please.
Find my,
Ms. Seals?
The list is right there on the agenda.
She's calling. Are you going to call it?
Yes,
that's okay. Thank you.
Ms. Seals?
Present.
Ms. Jenkins? Ms. Rogal Miller?
Present.
Mr. Massey? Ms. Lambert?
Here.
Ms. Haley? Vice Chair Colleen?
Present.
Chair Ms. Soraka?
Present.
You have a quorum.
So absent is Hubert.
He's on his way though.
It's just late.
Oh, is he here?
That's
He,
it, but
he's on his way.
Oh, okay.
Lolita's not here.
And what about Tanya?
No.
The approval, are you going to call for that?
Yes.
Thank
B, approval of the agenda.
Move approval. As
I'm
Granted.
second, and I have some discussion. And the discussion is on the agenda, we would like to have a discussion under the new service agreement for. Oh, okay. thank you.
Mike awareness people.
Oh, yes, right, and it's very important. We would like approval of a procedure under the new DIA service agreement for public hearings before the service agreement is presented to the, to add it to the service agreement. In the budget, we want to add parking for the board members and a secretary, a recording secretary, a paid recording secretary at the board meetings. That's all I have to say.
C, approval of the February 21st, 2022 meeting minutes.
I'm sorry. You haven't taken any votes. I don't
We're not
understand.
on the agenda yet. We're still on the agenda.
No, she just said C, approval of the minute meetings. We're not on any. So procedurally, are those friendly amendments to the agenda? To the printed agenda?
No, those are my suggestions to add to the agenda.
do we want to edit under new business?
That would be fine with me.
Excuse me, how does that go now? What would be the procedure on that?
Well, procedurally, what it is she wants to amend the agenda. So then it's discussion and vote of this board, whether they want to do that.
But at this moment, right now, we would have the discussion and vote before we move forward. Is that what you're saying?
The board has to, at every meeting, vote to approve the agenda. If there are additions to the agenda, the usual method is to discuss and then have your vote
Okay.
on the amended agenda. It'll be different than the printed one. So it's amended.
Okay, so then you made the motion. You made the motion to do it.
No. Tim made the motion to approve the agenda, and I seconded that. But in the discussion, I'm asking that there be the issue of public hearings for the service agreement, and that we add a paid secretary. Minute.
Okay.
And I thought I heard a third.
No, I only mentioned parking.
Parking.
Oh, parking, right, parking. So that's 1, 2, 3 items to add to the,
Other discussion there?
Yes.
We already have a discussion under unfinished business, item 1, a discussion of the service agreements. Would it be appropriate for you to raise that in that discussion in terms of the agreement in public hearings? Would that be the appropriate place to
yes,
raise
that
it?
would be appropriate. We'll add that.
And then we also, under item new business, item 2, in the discussion and the approval of the proposed audit, item B there is the approval of the amended budget, which is going to reflect the audit expense. There already is a line item for parking in the budget. And you have a copy of the budget, and the budget is online. We just approved that budget, I believe, at the last meeting or the one before that. So I think it'd be appropriate, instead of a new item, we already have the budget on the agenda.
Okay, where is the budget on the agenda?
It's new business,
It's approval
item-
of the audit firm.
excuse me, I'm gonna tell you. New
Well,
bu-
I'm listening.
I know. Item, new business, item 2B, approval of amended budget to reflect the audit expense. So the discussion of the budget is already there.
Okay.
So we can certainly take that up there, as well as, since the budget is already there, also a discussion of a recording secretary and paying.
Okay, thank
So what
you.
I'm suggesting is we don't need to really amend the budget, or amend the agenda. The items you brought up all fit under items that are currently on the agenda.
As long as they're brought up and with those items, I'll be satisfied.
Somehow I don't think you're gonna let us get by without that, Ms. Miller.
So on the approval of the agenda, we have a motion to approve it, and was there a
And a
second?
second, I'm the second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item C, approval of the February 21st meeting minutes.
I didn't recall who the treasurer was, so I left that blank.
Maria,
No, Maria's no longer, she resigned.
was she resigned at that time though?
Yes, she was resigned when we elected. When, you resigned a year ago, didn't you, Maria? She resigned a year ago, so there was somebody else.
So Maria? Right, so. So there was a motion to approve that by who?
I will move that we approve the previous minutes of February 21.
Is
With
there-
the correction of the addition of the treasurer. Is that correct, Tim?
She didn't have the treasurer's
Yeah.
name.
Who is the treasurer?
Lolita.
Yeah, it was.
No, it's not.
Hang on. She said Lolita, sorry.
Yes, I will. Take that as a friendly minute and make that part of the motion to amend the minutes to reflect Lolita Haley as treasurer.
Is there a second? Been seconded by Mr. Massey. All those in favor? Thank you.
I have to abstain. I wasn't here.
Second.
All right, we're on to D, report from the chair. We have the first thing we have to report is Dawn Lee Cotton is no longer on the board. She resigned. And moving to the next item, commission has yet to approve the Art Authority appointments.
If I can butt in there,
Sure.
I just want to make sure we're simply in the fact is still So because I know that it went before the board, I want to see if Tim Colleen has,
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I want to see Tim Colleen, if that's still so, because I know that it went before the board, the commission the other day, and that might be a change. Is there a change in the commission to, with the commission to approve the art authority members? I know it went before the board and it's been held up for a second, but I do believe that it's been approved at this time. Is that correct?
I missed a little bit of what the chair
Said about that, but, week and a half ago, the chair of the commission, passed for the day, the item of the appointments. And that is a different motion than a motion saying to table. If you table, it goes off your agenda and somebody has to take affirmative action to put it back on the agenda at some point in the future. Pass for the day means we're not going to deal with it today. It stays on the agenda and it will be on our commission agenda this coming Thursday. But I have received no communication from the chair. Madam Chair, have you received a communication from?
No, I have not.
So this is the ball is in the court of the chair of the commission for bringing that proposal back.
I'd like to clarify that. Is that for all the appointments or just for?
No, it was for the appointments that expired this year,
Oh,
which were 5 of the commission appointments. There are 3 appointments from the county executive, but those appointments it's staggered. Those appointments don't expire until next year in 23.
okay, thank you.
And second too. If someone second his motion to pass.
No, that wasn't a motion. I was just explaining what the Wayne County Commission did the week before last. When the item came before them, it was referred out of the Government Operations Committee to approve the appointments or the reappointments of the 5 current members of this board that the commission had appointed. When it got to the full board the following week, the motion was to pass for the day at that.
Oh, if that was.
So I
Yeah.
just want people to understand what happened. So, and the pass for the day motion means that it stays on our agenda and it'll be coming up at full board this coming Thursday.
I get it.
Okay, so, well, we'll be notified so we can notify the members of the board after the Thursday meeting, so they'll know, they won't have to wait 3 months to know what's going on.
Well, as I said, Madam Chair, I have not had, the ball is in the court of the chair of the Wayne County Commission.
Oh,
And that's why I asked if you had communication, if you had a further update on how that's going to happen, and I don't have one either.
I will call her. Thank you. Someone.
Oh, Madam Chair, that's the counsel for the Wayne County Commission,
Okay,
Alicia Johnson.
maybe she should introduce herself too, so.
Good morning, through the chair, Alicia Johnson, I'm attorney for the commission. To answer your question, when the commission actually approve appointments, the appointees will be notified. That is our standard procedure.
Okay.
As Commissioner Clean mentioned, those appointments will be on Thursday's agenda. At this point, we don't know what action the commission will take. But if the commission approves the appointment, you'll get a letter from Pam Lane, the clerk of the commission, advising you that your appointment has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, then we're next is unfinished business.
Item 1, under unfinished business, discussion of service agreement, report from committee.
Who's gonna read that discussion on that?
Where we are on this committee, we still have not met with, Macomb County and, we do we did have some discussion about how we're going to move forward about the, service agreement, but we just recently found out that the cutoff date should be extended. We thought the cutoff date was June of 2022, well, October of 2022. We now know that that's December 1st, 2023. So we want to allow ourselves more time to meet with more art entities, and again with Macomb and County. Betty and Dawn and I, we did have a couple of discussions about how to move forward on that. But with Dawn leaving the board, we have to kind of circle back around to see how that's going to work. But we've had some discussions about public meetings and with other art entities and how we're going to have them engaged in discussion for the service agreement, since we now know that we have a little bit more time to get that process done.
Sorry, that was a little garbled. Could you
Madam Chair, I would like
what the
to
extension is
comment
to?
to that. Or a question really for Ms. Steele. Do you have any proposal for public hearings for the service agreements?
So we don't have, we have proposals from, I think, Macomb and Oakland, they're past proposals. Before we start to propose anything, we do want to make sure that we are engaged with the communities. I've had discussions with other board members about those art entities. We know that there are going to be about, is it 420?
I think it's like 435.
435 art entities within Wayne County that we plan to meet with over the next year to kind of shape the discussion and shape what we want in the millage. So we don't have a proposal at this time, but we're working towards that. We just want to make sure that we have the input of these other art entities, 435 entities.
If I may comment through the chair, the list of 435 cultural organizations was compiled by Wayne State University for the Wayne County Council for the Arts, History, and Humanities. And that list is about 435 organizations. And we talked, Renata and I talked this morning about breaking the list into 4 meetings. Am I saying this correctly? Breaking the list into 4 meetings and inviting 25% to a public meeting about the service agreement. And the place for the meetings would alternate within the county so that it would be convenient for the groups. And Renata, do you need some clerical help in getting those notices out? Because you would be notifying about 100 organizations per meeting.
Of course, the offer would be kindly embraced. You know, if we definitely need paid staff to help with those things, but to initiate and to get started, I am going to get started with the invitations and the meeting places early this week, sometime early this week, and I can let the rest of the board know who's going to be on that list and where it is immediately. If the DIA wants to send a representative, not necessarily to speak, but to just to see what's going on, so that, you know, to be transparent, that is okay. But we definitely want the engagement of these art authorities, these art communities, and all of these people, because we are the voice for them we want to make sure that they at least have a voice to us in some type of forum where everyone that is engaged. And unfortunately, what happens is we think that we know, and then the more people you add, the more opinions there are, and people see things that other people don't see. So we want to make sure that we engage as many communities as we can before we start this service agreement finalization. So that's what. But yes, to answer your question, I would like some help.
So that's for later then.
Then so the deadline for this final report would be when, the next meeting?
Not you, for which final report?
The information you're gathering from these meetings.
So we can't meet with 435.
No, that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to find out.
So we're gonna do it over time, over the next few months for sure.
Okay.
I'll send out a list of time and dates. We have to get out notices to people
Mhm.
and let them have the opportunity to pick, or we pick for them where it's going to be. So that's coming on, but within the next couple of months, I think it would be okay.
Okay, so that's coming out from this, from the Wayne County Audit Authority.
Absolutely.
And the subcommittee on that is,
Well, it's actually me, you, and Dawn, but because Dawn has,
Dawn is no longer here, so.
yeah, but I
Right,
know
so
that
you
she's,
need to appoint someone to replace John.
yeah, that appointment is coming. We'll know the replacement for Dawn by the end of the week.
And then that will be, that report will come back to the next meeting.
Absolutely.
And our next meeting is about, this is June.
August.
August. So is that, how does that fit in timing that we need for, is that,
We'll make it good.
okay, all right, okay.
We do want to get moving on this, but
Is there any more discussion on that?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
The logistics of this. I'm all in favor, and I've been thinking too that we need because basically the committee has not met. The people I've talked to on the committee said there hasn't been a meeting, so I was thinking that maybe through the summer we should have a couple, 3 special meetings of the entire Art Authority Board to start digesting it. And I think it's a great idea to bring in more of the art community out there. It's an issue I've raised with their board members for a while to get their input. But just a couple of things about this. Is this going to take a budget? These, I think, have to be publicly noticed meetings. Which means we probably would need to make sure that we have like a Zoom or a public link to these things. What kind of budget do we need for this if we're going to bring people together? Having the input, which is tremendous, of the, and we've needed more of this from the nonprofit art groups around, is only one portion of the service agreements. There's a big portion there for teacher training, curriculum development, and so I guess a third thing I would have is, first of all, we're gonna need a budget, I think, to get this group together, and we got to do public noticing, and then some strategy for digesting the entire service agreement. And so I put some thought to that, and I'm ready to discuss that today. But I think we need to talk about a budget for this. How are we going to do it? How are we going to do it as a publicly noticed meeting, especially if we're going to have 4 meetings in very short time here, just over a period of a couple of months, to make sure they work.
Okay, so this
So, one of the biggest things that we can do is make sure that it's on our website, that people can follow the Wayne County Art Authority. They can be notified on our website. They also can be notified on the Wayne County website itself. As soon as you click on, we can make sure that that happens. And the other thing with these art authorities, they come with email addresses, they come with other things. We can make sure that it's in different publications like the Cranes Magazine, Detroit News, and things like that. We have really good relationships with them. I have the relationships with them to make sure that the public notice is out there. But more importantly, to make sure that it's successful, I think a lot of cold calling, and that's why we feel like the assistance would be needed, a lot of cold calling, emailing, and one-on-one contact to let people know how important this is, and that this is their opportunity to have a voice. The strategic part of this is to make sure that people in certain areas come to the meeting in their area, because unfortunately, when you go from one area to the next, the needs of the people are different. So you can have a group that's in Detroit, and I'm not saying that they're not excluded from going to any other, but when you have the meeting the needs of the people in Detroit versus Canton versus Highland Park versus anywhere else, you want to make sure that like groups are together because they usually have the same concerns. So for me, the calling and like you said, just talking about the service agreement in its entirety, I think all of these things would come up. When you have the art groups, they have different concerns about different things. It's not just the service agreement, what they're doing in my community. You have all kinds of people that meet and come to these things for all different kinds of reasons, and they're just a small part of the decisions that we make based on the knowledge we have and the way the service agreement has been in the past. So I think that the meeting groups is going to be successful, and they're going to bring up things that within the service agreement that will be up for discussion for us anyway. As far as the budget, yes, we are going to need a budget, but I don't think that it's going to be great. I don't think it should be astronomical because we want to meet in public spaces that like the Romulus Rec Center and things like that, that are going to cost us a lot of money.
Can I add that? Perhaps you can ask the community art organization if they'd like to sponsor.
Sure.
And then we could get them to actually cover that portion of it.
But yeah, we do need to buckle down with the budget, just a basic budget. So I agree with that.
Who's going to lead this effort?
I am. We're not to see.
We're not, okay. And what will we call the special committee? Outreach?
We already called the special committee.
I know, but
The outreach committee, the special outreach committee. Let's do that.
Authority outreach.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
I don't, we're doing we're doing more than outreach to the committee is. We're just not reaching out. We're also looking at the whole. The list of 435 the Wayne County Council of Arts put together, does that come with email addresses?
Yes,
Boom.
it's beautiful list.
It's done. And that's the notification to all of the groups out there as to time and date. Our other public notice, we already do the proper public notice on the Art Authority website. But I was most concerned that all of the art groups get contacted.
Sure.
And what are we going to tell them? What do we want them to do? Are we going to email them the service agreement?
I think that in my mind, I would like to email them what the meeting is about. Those who attend, we get the service agreement and do some highlights and have some discussion at that time for people who attend. We can send out the service agreement, but it is accessible online anyway. But for the people who come, I would like for them to have paper in hand. I feel like that's more effective in a meeting I would like for them to have paper in hand, and we just have discussions about what the authority is, what we really do, for one, what we can control and what we can't control. It's just about learning boundaries and learning what it is they want and what we are capable of doing. So I think once we establish that with these authorities, the discussions will change, and I just think that that's most important for them to understand what we do and what we're capable of doing.
If we're to email all the groups, it's a simple attachment to add to the email. Here's the current service agreement.
Yeah, that could happen.
I highly suggest that.
Because I don't think when you reach out to the public at 435, you say, we want you to come to this meeting about the service agreement. By the way, now you go to another website and find it. So I think the attachment has to go. And I'm not understanding what you're saying about, it sounds like the committee has some presentation ready to give.
No, we don't.
About-
We don't have one to give, but we're in these discussions, and a lot of us have been in these discussions 6 to 7 years. And I think that if Barb, Betty, Maria, you were in attendance of these meetings, who's ever hosting, who's ever co-hosting, that we should be able to have discussions with people who are not aware of what's going on or who have questions. That's what we're here for. So.
And that's all to the good, but you indicated though that we're going to say to the group, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do as an art authority.
No. As questions, as they ask questions,
Yeah.
Things like the hiring of people at the DIA, a lot of people think that that is the art authority's job to monitor who's security and who's this. And I think that those kind of questions will prompt answers from us as an authority to let them know what we can do and what we can't do. I'm not saying that we're going to invite them into a meeting and say, we don't do this and we don't do that. That is not what.
So I'm trying to think on how these meetings would go, Ms. Field. We're going to go hopefully get an inexpensive or free location somewhere. We're going to geographically invite a quarter of the list. And then we're just going to sit down and say, okay, guys, what do you think? What are we saying to these arts groups about what we are soliciting?
Well, what we're going to explain to them, like I said before, is that we're going to talk to them about what we do as an art authority. First, put that on the table, what we are, how we came about, what it is, because a lot of people do not know. As we talk about the accomplishments that we've made, the things that we're working on, because a lot of people are not on the Zoom meeting, they're not in this room, obviously. As we have those discussions, introducing ourselves, letting them know that you can contact us when you have concerns, just opening the floor, doing an introduction publicly of what this art authority is. Then we open it for comment. We can now, the meeting itself, we can limit how long the comment is and things like that, but it's for public comment and for the public to address any concerns, to express any concerns that they have. As we move on and on and on, we are addressing those concerns from meeting to meeting, following up with those same email addresses. They can still get the minutes from the meetings that we had, all of the meeting groups, but most certainly the ones we met. It's just like any other meeting, but we are using it as an introduction of the authority to the public in which we speak for. So that's the purpose of the
I
meeting.
think that's all to the good, but I do think, because you repeated it again, when I asked, how are people we're inviting to the meeting going to know? And you again suggested at the beginning of the meeting, some sort of a statement about who we are, what we do, what we can't do. And I think that has to be a carefully vetted statement.
Absolutely.
And so
and I don't know where the vetting would take place. I don't know if this, the entire board should look at that.
Absolutely.
And, so, but I'm just real careful with stuff like that, because the worst thing in the world would be for there to be a misunderstanding about what that is. I'd also like to address the question of the 2023 expiration date that's on the service agreement. Something I've noticed myself and the commission attorney has noticed. Does the service agreement was drafted by the DIA and brought to us 9-10 years ago, when we first got going. And this board adopted without any amendments that service agreement. So does the DIA or does the commission attorney, who has noticed this as well, have any comment about that 2023 agreement? Because all of our discussions so far, and I believe like the service agreement was to run the term of the millage, which expires at the end of this calendar year. And the voters voted in a new millage August of last fall, that the beginning date is January 1, 2023. So I think we need some clarification on what the actual expiration date is of that agreement.
It applies to all three agreements. Macomb has the same termination date. Oakland County has the same termination date, and Wayne County has the same termination date.
Well, who will pick that up and change that and make it right?
Well, I don't know.
Well, why is it wrong?
Well, is it 22 or is it 23?
What I suspect happened is that the millage passed, and then they worked on the service agreement. So then it came in later that the service agreement started later because the millage hadn't passed, and so that's why the effective date is later.
That could be a problem, though. Go ahead.
So just to clarify, the first service year was 2013. So the millage passed in 2012. The first full service year was 2013. So the end of 10 years, if we're saying the first term was a 10-year millage, the first 10 years of service will end at the end of 2022. And that is accepted in Macomb, and that is accepted in Oakland at the Art Authority level, although the document does say something different.
So, Alicia, if you don't mind.
So you're saying that you have another document that says 2022?
No, I'm saying we started service in 2013, that was year 1. Year 10 will end this year. So I don't have an additional document.
May I ask a question before we hear from Commission Attorney of the DIA?
Yes.
This has come up in the art authorities in Oakland and Macomb.
We haven't discussed it recently, the fact that the service agreement has a different term to it, but we have discussed it in practical purposes that the belief is our 10 years end at the end of this year.
So when you say it was accepted, I'm thinking an actual vote. That's how boards accept things. Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, I would have to go back to the minutes. I don't recall if there was an actual vote, but
The discussion has come up.
The group is working on new service agreements effective January 1, 2023.
What
All right.
group are you speaking of?
Oakland and Macomb.
Please.
Through the chair. So to the first comment, there was a.
I don't think you're on.
Another
We
one.
can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Nope.
Now?
No.
Is that better?
No.
You got your-
Try one at the table here, please, Counselor. We've been doing this a long time in this room. People go up to that mic and that won't work. Yeah.
So through the chair, the first clarification I would make
Please sit down.
is that Felicia Johnson, attorney for the county commission. So the first clarification I would make is that the service agreement came before the millage, because that's what the statute requires. It requires that you have an agreement before you can disperse that millage. I can't specifically speak to your dates. While the commission did the articles of incorporation, and while I did see that original service agreement, I was not the counsel representing this body, so I was not negotiating that. But you may want to, as you look at the dates for the service agreement, also take into consideration the year that the tax millage is actually levied and collected. Because you might find that though the end of the millage is 2022, that millage will likely not be collected until 2023, which could also help explain that 2023 date. So just keep that in mind as you go forward looking at your date. Obviously, if this body and the other counties decide to terminate that agreement early and then start over in January, that would be within your discretion. But the current agreement currently says December 2023.
Yes, Jim.
Question for council then. You began your remarks by saying that service agreement need to be in place before the collection of it. Did I hear you correctly?
Yes.
So does this mean then, since the voters in all three counties approved a new millage beginning January 1 of 2023, trying to get my dates right, that, and if the service agreement doesn't expire until December 31st of 2023, and no action is taken in between, then the millage could not be collected that year. Is that correct?
I don't want to give any advice to this body at this point. Again, not being your counsel, I have not specifically dug into the details of this. If that is a request, Commissioner, I will do so. But at this time, I'm hesitant to offer a straight opinion, not having looked at all the details. And again, not being involved in those discussions with the service agreement and not understanding why the date was 2023 in the first place.
Well, let me ask you this, counsel. Is there anything that would bar this body from terminating the agreement a year early? The original service agreement. And deciding on a December 31st, 2022 date and terminating it early?
Again, not having reviewed the details, I'm not aware of any language in the service agreement that would prevent that. I'm not aware of any language in the articles of incorporation or the statute that require an exact 10-year agreement. That was something I believe that you all negotiated with the DIA. So I do believe you have that ability. But again, I would have to go back and just read all the documents, not being this body's attorney, to confirm that. But I'm not aware of anything in writing that requires 10 years. I believe it is likely within your discretion.
But it is your, from your understanding that as of right now, this service agreement does not end until December 31st, 2023, because that is what is written, correct?
That is correct. And I'll say that I did recently review that only because the commission received a FOIA request regarding to the ARC security. So in response to that, we noticed that the date on the agreement is actually December 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I made you. Oh, okay, that was a lot. What I would suggest, Madam Chair, and
of course, commission counsel here is not the counsel of record for the art authority. So we cannot rely on her opinion. And she made the appropriate disclaimers when she discussed. We do have the option of terminating the agreement early. Perhaps we should either formally seek counsel on this matter, and we as an art authority can revisit this discussion as to whether to terminate early or not at our August meeting. Since I should say, the DIA and its discussions with the other art authorities are ready to move forward with an agreement, a new service agreement beginning January 1 of 23. I think it behooves us to stay in step with that. And so that the service agreements for all three counties go in at the same time, expire at the same time. So I'm thinking that we should seek counsel to give us some clarity and some direction on this going forward, what our options are. Because we need to proceed. I think it changes the work of the special committee a little bit if we're going to try to meet with 400 art groups in the next couple of months, and there's not going to be a new agreement in place for like a year and a half after that. I think that would maybe be a little premature to have those discussions then with the other group. I mean, we can bring them in, but I don't know. And I think we were all thinking December of 2022 that the new millage would begin the new service agreement. So we do kind of have this technical thing sitting out there, and I don't know how we want to resolve that. Commission counsel has offered a way that we seek our own counsel and get an opinion, but I'd certainly like to hear what other board members have to say.
I think we should be in sync with the other boards. I
When
mean,
did the agreement begin? When did the original service agreement, what was the first date of service?
January 1, 20 or 13.
So we immediately in 2012 started with free admission and started building the programs. Our first full year delivering the service agreement was 2013.
So it was January 1, 2013.
Yeah.
2013. So January 1 of 2023. So that would be the end of the first 10 years.
That's 11 years. People make this mistake all the time. We saw it.
I said January 1. It's not the whole year. So it would be like December 31st of 2012 would be the end of the 10 years then.
Can I ask something? So
Yes.
the DIA has a
22.
fiscal year of January to December. What is your fiscal year? So July 1st. So and yours is September or October 1st, correct? We need a tax. Does it have something to do with when the taxes are actually collected? And then dispersed, is that why it has a later date?
Identify yourself.
My name is Salvador Ponce. I am the director of the DIA. The fiscal year did not change when we received the college. It was kind of,
So,
I think just to reiterate what has been said, if our first year of providing service was January 1st, started January 1st, 2013, 10 years will go all the way to January 1st, 2033. That means that for the new millage, we need to start working on a service agreement this year to finish it before December 31st. That's what the other arts authorities have discussed with us as well.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I hate to quibble, but I'm going to with the director. And people make this mistake all the time. Like with a decade, the decade starts in 2000. It ends in 2009. That's 10 years, but often people will say, well, 2000 to 2010, that's 10. So if the service agreement began on January of 13 and it's a 10-year agreement, it ends on December 31st of 22. And if it ended on December 31st of 23, which we have said was and the DIA said we made that mistake, and Oakland and Macomb are operating on a 22, then if it is a 10-year agreement, it ends on December 31st, 2022. And I think if there's still questions about that, I think Commission Council has accurately pointed out that if we're to unsnarl this and understand this as a board, we seek our own counsel to help us clarify those questions. You know, does it have to be a 10-year agreement? What does the law say? I think there's also the practicalities that we should consider of that. And I would hate to see us, and we should have counsel tell us whether it's appropriate for us to terminate the agreement a year early, so that we have all that information in one place. And so we don't have to endlessly talk about stuff here when maybe we don't have the answer that we need counsel for.
Is that a motion to seek counsel on this, or is this something that's going to be done?
Well, I'd like to hear opinions from other members of this board on that.
I would like to see us stay in sync with the other two counties.
I'd like to say that I'm in agreement with Commissioner Colleen. I mean, in the last day of the first service agreement was December 31st, 2022. That's our understanding as well. So I just want to make sure that I was clear.
I would like to make a motion, if I could, to seek counsel on this, just so that we can all have a discussion and talk about how it affects Wayne County. I do understand that the other counties are doing things differently, but each county is unique. That's why we have our own authorities, and we want to do what is in the best interest of Wayne County. So I would like to make the motion to seek counsel and to have a discussion with the board in its entirety, with counsel via Zoom or whatever we have to do to discuss the best interest of Wayne County, regardless to what Macomb and Oakland County are doing.
Motion on the floor.
Okay, I'd like to repeat your motion. To seek counsel to discuss the best interest of the Wayne County Art Institute Authority. And then I'm really not sure what the rest of your motion is.
I just want to seek counsel for the to discuss the best interest of the Wayne County and the Wayne County Arts Authority as it relates to the service agreement ending date.
To seek counsel to discuss the best interests of the Wayne County Art Authority and Wayne County as to the ending date
Of the service agreement.
of service agreement. Okay,
Is there a second?
is there a second?
You second.
I'll second, but I have a question. Do we have a budget for council?
I can't hear you.
Do we have a budget for council? I will second that motion.
In the budget, if I may, Madam Chair,
Yes, please.
in the budget, it was in your agenda packet, well, there's a revised budget in there. But in the budget as originally passed by this board, I believe there was a $1,000 or $2,000 item for council. Attorney's fees, we have a $2,000 item in our budget currently.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
on the motion, we have a couple of attorneys in this room. And I don't think there's an attorney out there that could respond to a request to tell us what is in our best interest. So I think we need some clarification on that motion a little bit.
I was speaking to the legalities of it and how it stands.
If I may.
Sure.
If I may. So I think, and this discussion is also going to come up under the audit where we sent out an RFQ, a request for quotes. And quotes came in and we had a subcommittee of this board to review those. And they're going to make a presentation a little later on the agenda for how that goes. So we need to think about that as well. Who is going to send out the RFQs? Because this is public or RFPs. And when you send one of those out, there's specificity that needs to be in there so that professionals know what they're responding to. And I think that language would be available, but I don't hear it in the motion. So I think two things. I think a little more clarification on what we're going to be asking attorneys to respond to, and then the actual mechanics of making that happen. And considering things like, well, do we want to wait until our August meeting for this board to make a decision on this? Are we going to need, because generally quotes like this, 30 days, you have them out there. Correct me if I'm wrong, any attorneys in the room. But I think a 30-day request is very common to say respond within 30 days. So, you know, we could have every request back in by the end of June. Or at that point, we'll have a committee review that to make a recommendation and call in a special meeting of this board. So I think we need to think about that too. When do we want to bring this attorney on through formal action of this board? How soon do we want this for our discussions? Because if it's going to be, if it turns out in the end, and I'm just pure speculation at this point, but if it turns out in the end that the expiration date is going to be December 31st of 2022 this year, I think the earlier we have that opinion from the attorney gives us the flexibility as a board to digest the service agreements and to discuss what the new one may be that would begin January of 2020, January 1 of 2023. If we wait to bring an attorney's to get an attorney opinion, the longer we wait for that, it can compress the time frame for this board to be able to digest the service agreement. So that's what I'm thinking. Who's going to send out the RFPs? We are going to see a bunch. Well, we've got 2,000 in here. So I don't know what an attorney is going to cost, but we can always amend our budget based on what they're saying. So who's going to do the mechanics of this, of getting those out, and what are we specifically recommending that attorneys respond to so that they know what they're responding to? Those are my two things. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The two things that you're asking are 30-day limit it,
No. Who's actually gonna, and what list of attorneys, who's actually gonna do, whether this is a request for quotes, an RFQ, or a request for proposals, RFP? Who is actually gonna do that? What list of attorneys do we use to send that out to? How do we notice that? As a public board? And then secondly, I'm asking for clarification as to what the language is that goes into that. Too broad of a language, attorneys won't know what they're responding to, right? What do you mean? I don't know the best interest. I'm going to give you an opinion on something. You're going to decide your best interest based on my opinion. So I think we need to tighten up that language. And so we know, so people will know exactly what they're responding to. We did that with the, when we send out for audits, we specifically say to auditors, this is what we need you to audit. So I think we need tightening the language up on what we're asking, and then the actual mechanics of getting it out and getting it back in.
With less than 6 months to the end of this year, we have this a very speedy job.
7
No, this is
and a half
in,
months.
this is the May. No,
Yeah, we're in the 5th month, so
another
7,
time.
7.5, but I'm just saying for background, that's another consideration too. The longer this takes, then time gets compressed.
Which brings me to another point. I don't think we meet enough, the art authority. We wait too long. We need to meet more often than we're meeting, because it's too much length of time in between something so important. So we can talk about that later, but it's cramming everything in the last minute. We need to have more time, or meet more often, so we know, keep up with it better. Maybe that is that's the problem. But that's my opinion. So what do we go from here now? Who's going to, how are we going to proceed now with this?
Well, I think that there was a motion that was second. We haven't voted on it at this time,
Right.
to seek counsel, the logistics of the council, how they're going to be paid and things like that. That does need to be worked out, but I know that there's a motion on the floor that has been seconded.
okay, I can read it back.
Sure.
Motion by Renata, second by Maria, to seek counsel. And you said best interest of Wayne County and Wayne County residents for the ending date of the service agreement. And Tim had discussion then that the language of best interest of Wayne County can be determined by an attorney. And Tim then is asking for a discussion on what attorney do we use, 30 day, and that the time limit would be 30 days. Is that correct, Tim? 30 days and
No, not necessarily, but under discussion of the motion that's on the floor.
right.
My discussion is in 2 areas. If we just vote on the motion the way it is and don't do anything else, what happens after this meeting? Who's going to send out to the attorneys? What are we going to send out to them? How is that going to be worded? What are we looking for? I don't think there's enough in the motion to do either one. And so I do have, so as of right now, I'm not in favor of the motion, because I don't think, if we walk out of here and we just pass this motion, then who's sending out the request for attorneys? How's that
So we
going?
don't have an attorney, because I know that other things have been put before attorneys about our, for one, our membership on the DIA board. We had an attorney then, So what has happened to our attorney at this time that we sought counsel for when the discussion for?
This board, that was a personal request that we had an attorney. We did hire an attorney early on from the Allen Brothers law firms. I'm trying to think what that first thing was in the first couple of years we were in existence. And I can't remember that, but that was for specific. The request that I made as a member of this board is I went back to that same attorney, but this board did not approve that. So that's not that's my bill. That is, knowing that that person had municipal law experience and whatnot. So no, as of right now, we have no attorney of record. We don't have a hired attorney. We don't have anybody on retainer. We're not paying somebody.
But we do have a $2,000 budget for that, correct?
Yes.
So the motion to me still stands, should we seek counsel because we have a $2,000 budget? Should we seek counsel for this specific question about the service agreement and the date? We are not asking an attorney to review the service agreement in its entirety. What I am asking is that we hire an attorney to talk about the legalities of the date of December 31st, 2023, as it is referenced in the service agreement. So my question to the board still is, can we hire an attorney to have a discussion about the service agreement date so that we as a board can make decisions about the best interest of Wayne County? That is still my motion.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
And my question is, how do we go about that hiring? We are a public board. We need a public procurement. How do we go about it?
The way we always go about, we have a list within the county that we use, lawyers, the way we go about any
So
procurement.
we are assuming Corporation Counsel is going to do this?
I don't know. I just know that we have a budget for an attorney, and if we have to put a RFQ out for it quickly, we could still do that. But I think to not have counsel about something that is so important. This is a legal document. This document was signed by these parties saying that the legal date was December 31st, 2023. And we need to talk to, as you stated, from your own words, that we need an attorney. Yeah, so.
But the mechanism of, Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
I'd like to ask Commission Counsel. Commission Counsel, would it be appropriate for either yourself or Corporation Counsel to handle the details of sending out the RFP or RFQ and what would go in there? Would Corporation Counsel charge back, or yourself charge back your time for doing that to this board?
Through the chair, again, Felicia Johnson, attorney for the county commission, that would be within the discretion of the various bodies. So for example, I could not agree to that unless the commission chair agreed to that. When this body was initially created, there was discussion with Corporation Counsel's office, and it was determined that neither my office or Corporation Counsel represents this body because you are a separate legal entity. You're technically not a part of the county. So you have the ability under the statute to hire your own attorney. You are not bound by the county's procurement rules. I'm not aware if this body has determined what your procurement process is for retention of professional services. If you have not done that, that may be something you want to consider in the future, because again, you're not bound by the county's rules. With regards to the recent procurement of the auditor, there was actually direct solicitation. So we did not put out a big RFP. There was direct solicitation to firms that we knew, based on our experience within the commission, firms that were qualified and were able to potentially assist this body. So we did direct solicitation. You may consider that as an option, just to get this done. So really the procurement process is up to this body with regards to how you proceed. Again, if the request is for my office to do it, we would have to run that through the chair. I'm assuming Corporation Counsel, again, would probably have to talk to the CEO and figure out if they would do that. But because we're not legally bound to be represent this body, you're free to find any attorney you deem qualified to assist you.
Thank you.
Okay, so what is our next discussion on this? Because time is of essence too, right? And sending out all these to all open attorneys who are not familiar with this would take more time, would it not?
It would, but just as Ms. Felicia said, that we do have the opportunity to use them or to use court counsel. I think that, again, time is important, but what's most important is what's written in that service agreement. We are trying to service the community. So I say, let's use our resources that we have at hand with Ms. Felicia or with court counsel, whoever you guys choose as this body, and just we're asking one specific question, and that is about a date. And we are all part of Wayne County, and we are all trying to protect the interests of the people. And I think that it will be, I think this would be an easy, not necessarily easy. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not trying to act like this is something that it's not, but I think that we could sort of keep it in-house. But I do believe that we should still seek counsel on this issue, because this is a matter of a year's time. And within that year, as discussed by Tim Colleen, he said that we should talk to an attorney. And this date is important. It's a matter of how much time we have to talk to the other art entities and things like that. It goes from 3 months to a year and 3 months. And I think that's just important to the residents of Wayne County. So as it stands, I still say that we should seek counsel. And just as the attorney said, we do not have to go through the procurement process, so that cut down time. It's just a matter of how much time she or general counsel, I'm not sure who that is, I believe it's James, he would have to spend on this. And I think we should just talk to them and see who's willing to take it on and get a response within the next couple of days, because we're only asking one specific question. We are not asking about the service agreement in its entirety, just one date.
Treasurer. So if we need the commission's approval to use their attorneys, can we have our chairperson make that recommendation or ask the commission if we can use the counsel for the commission for this project?
And I was getting ready to make a friendly amendment very close to what you're saying. Commission counsel made it very clear that this board is not Wayne County. We are not part of Wayne County. We are not part of Wayne County government, which was her discussion originally about whether she or corporation counsel. Now, my friendly amendment to this would be then that the chair of this board send a letter as quickly as possible to both the chair of the commission and the county executive, requesting that they do direct solicitation of attorneys regarding the question of the ending date on the service agreement. And, you know, this is a problem doing stuff on the fly. I think one of the things we need to ask attorneys is it within, I think we need to ask them, first of all, as it stands right now, under the law, is that a legal service agreement. Is there anything in the law that says those service agreements or in articles of corporation that it has to be 10 years? It can't be 11, because right now it's an 11-year. I think we also asked, so is there anything where it's mandated that it's 10 years, not 11? I think we also need to ask whether this body can terminate a year early if it so desires. Does this body have that option? Because I think that's what we're looking for in the first place, having an attorney tell us what our options are about that date.
We're just talking about a hiring one right now. We can ask them whatever we want later.
No, you have to send that out so the attorneys know what they're signing up for. I'm not going to sign an agreement with you saying, yeah, I guess unless, see, that adds another layer of complication, Ms. Lambert. I do suppose we could send out with direct solicitation to put an attorney on retainer. And then are they going to come back here, and who's going to have the discussion with them as to what exactly we want them to do with regards to this? I think we make that part of the direct solicitation. We're looking for an attorney that can review these items.
I don't think we can afford a retainer, do you?
That's why I'm thinking that we, in a direct solicitation, we're very specific in what they want us to bring back, right? That we're not looking for an attorney on retainer forever and ever. But that's another decision for this board to make. But I think we have to say, I don't see any way around it. We have to say, first of all, will the executive branch or the legislative branch agree that they will allow their counsel, and we have to ask to do direct solicitation. And then secondly, what's in that direct solicitation? And that can't be nebulous. They're going to respond to exactly what we set out in there. And so we have to say, this is what we want. This is what we need to hear from the attorney. This is what we're looking for, so that they know, how to bill us and all of that kind of stuff. It can't be open-ended.
I have a comment or a question or a few here. How did we get to this situation? Because the other counties seem to understand.
Your microphone, please. We are.
Oakland and Macomb don't seem to have this problem. I agree that the year ends at the end of this year. Am I?
Yes,
And are we all on the same? I thought we were all on the same wavelength.
they're working on a service agreement that would become effective January 1, 2023.
And so I thought we were all in sync, all three counties, in terms of when we started this. I thought that we were all supporting it, because otherwise the art authority would not be getting the money from the other counties either. So how are we, why are we where we are now? I'm confused on this confusion.
If I could just.
Attorney.
Okay.
And I don't know if this will be helpful, but I am looking at your current operating agreement, and there's a section 4.4 that says early termination of the agreement. This agreement shall automatically terminate upon the termination of the operating agreement or any successor agreement between the city of Detroit and the DIA. So there is language in here that talks about early termination. I have no idea what the status of the city's agreement is. And I don't know if that's helpful, but your operating agreement does speak to early termination.
Well, the reason that we're here is because Oakland and Macomb County, they're changing some things within the service agreement. And my concern is the changes that they're making within the agreements within their counties. If we just go along with saying, yes, we're going to change ours too, I just want to make sure that when we have our discussions, it's in the best interest of us, because we know that there are things that they would like to do and changes that they would like to make that they're not helpful to us.
Right.
So, the reason that they're agreeing to it is because they want to kind of get out of the agreement that they're currently in so that they can make a new one. We may not. So that is why the date is so important.
Yeah, well, I was only thinking for the next 6 months. I wasn't thinking for next year. So I thought that we were all set through the end of this year.
And it could be possibly next year too. That's what we want to
I
meet with the
understand
attorney
that,
about.
So from Coleman, Oakland, and Wayne all made the same decision, how can an attorney here decide what Wayne is going to do with Oakland and Coleman, because we all sign the
Well,
same?
they're not going to decide. They're just going to tell us legally what we can, what is an option for us. They're not going to decide for us. We're still the board. And
No, I mean, I understand that, but I just thought, I didn't understand that. Still really don't understand it, because I thought we made a commitment to do something right through the end of this year. Am I wrong on that?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
to respond to that. I think until a couple of months ago, this is the assumption this board had been operating on. And then in the last month or so, it was noticed the December 31st, 2023 date as the expiration date. And that is what has precipitated this discussion. I don't recall any discussion. I mean, we approved that document with that date in it. And I have heard no discussion here in the last 9.5 years that that date might be problematic. That discussion has come up in the last month or so. So this board is still in charge, right? Council did complicate things there a little bit, but I think if we bring in an attorney, I think one of the things we want to ask that attorney is if we are interested in a new service agreement, this board, beginning January 1st of 2023, that can we enter into that and in that document say that this document supersedes any previous document, one that may have a December 2023 date in it. So can we, in a new service agreement, if this board sees fit to begin January 1 of 2023, can we specify in that document that this supersedes any previous agreement with the DIA? Can we terminate early is another question. What is our...
Ms. Johnson just, excuse me, Tim, Ms. Johnson just read us section 4.4 that the agreement allows for an early termination.
Council also prefaced her comments on that by saying, I hope I'm not complicating things. Are you reading the language right now, Attorney Miller?
4.4, it says this agreement shall automatically terminate upon the termination of the operating agreement or any successor agreement between the city and the DIA.
Okay, so what do you know of the agreement between the city of Detroit and the DIA? That's what it specifically references,
Okay.
not our service agreement, which is between us and the DIA. And I preface my comments by saying, yeah, I think council, you did unnecessarily complicate things because I don't know how aware people are of the agreement between the DIA and the city of Detroit, which of course was an outgrowth of the grand bargain. So I don't think that applies in this case.
You're right.
Yeah, and so again, we're back to, I do believe we need to send a request from the chair immediately to both the chair of the commission and to the county executive, requesting that they see fit that either one of those bodies would allow their legal counsel to do direct solicitation for attorneys for the purpose of delivering an opinion with regards to the expiration date of the current service agreement. And I think we need to be specific in that, because if you send out a request, again, people, have to know what they're responding to, right? If you hire somebody for a lawn service, then you have to tell them, I want you to cut the front and back grass, I want it trimmed, I want it, you just don't do a general,
It's already been seconded.
Okay, let's vote. Okay. The COVID got me so much. I understand that now. All right, so, we have a motion on the floor. You want to read the motion again? Well, we don't need to read it again.
It's already been seconded, right?
Okay, second, so we can vote on it.
It was seconded by Maria,
Okay, so let's vote on it. Okay,
and
so,
Tim made a friendly
Mhm.
amendment that the chair of the board send a letter to the chairman of the commission and executive director, and executive of the county, sorry, for direct solicitation of opinion.
For their permission to allow their attorneys to send out such a direct solicitation.
Regarding the ending date of the service
all
agreement.
right. So it's been,
I'm offering that. as a
So
friendly
does that
amendment.
have to be seconded and,
Under Robert's Rules of Order, it's the maker of the motion that says
Whether
whether
they'll accept that as a friendly amendment or not, as well as the seconder of the motion.
I will, accept that.
Now we're back to a motion if there's no other friendlies floating around.
we read the motion. Do you want to read it again or we just
No,
vote
let's
on it?
vote.
no,
Let's vote.
So we just vote on it?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes.
Item number 2.
No, Madam Clerk, where are we at?
We're moving on to item F, new business. Item 1, under new business, report from DIA, calendar year 2021 year-end activity report.
Here we go. Good morning.
Yeah, I think it's still morning.
So this meeting is one of our 3 regularly scheduled meetings. The main topic from the DIA side of this meeting is to present the 2021 year-end report. So you should have all received a narrative report. I think you received that last week in your meeting packets. I also included it in the meeting folders that I brought today. So I've also, in your meeting folders also is the 2020 final audit. And then I have a PowerPoint that I thought we would use to just sort of walk through the high level of the 2021 year end. So the first page here, the service agreement summary. This is the framework of the current service agreement, and this is the framework for our reporting. So you'll see the 4 areas: free general admission, the school program, senior program, and community partnership program. So these are the commitment levels that we have on behalf of Wayne County of student counts and investment, senior counts, investment, and investment in community partnership programs. As you may recall, we did author a letter of agreement at the beginning of the pandemic, just to make, just to acknowledge the pandemic and the limitations that put on our ability to deliver the service agreement as written. So, the first, area is free admission. I'm on page 3 of the deck. We had 25,695 Wayne County residents visit the museum in 2021 utilizing their free admission benefit.
She doesn't have, Betty doesn't have one of these folders.
Okay, sorry about that. I thought I put one on every.
Wait a minute, it's Heidi. That's all right.
There you go. I'll give you a minute to
Thank
catch
you.
up.
Thank you.
So we're on page 3. So obviously the pandemic did have an impact on museum visitorship. We were closed for a very relatively short period of time in 2020. We reopened July 10th of 2020. And over the course of the months and into 21, we resumed as much of our regular operations as possible. So for the majority of calendar year 2021, the museum was open 6 days a week. You see the hours here listed on slide 2 or slide 3. Those are our regular business hours, and that is reflective of pre-pandemic activity. Page 4 is a summary of the school program. So we did virtual field trips during the pandemic so that we were able to reach students and teachers when the museum was closed, when schools were closed, and when people weren't as comfortable being out and about and gathering in groups. In July of 2021, we started taking reservations for in-person visits to the museum again, and we resumed having school groups in the museum beginning on October 5th of 2021. Currently, we have school groups coming to the museum. We have a very busy spring with the very popular field trip season happening, and these school groups are being toured by gallery teachers currently. When we first opened back up, we were doing self-guided visits, but we are back to gallery teachers guiding school groups in the museum. Last year in 21, we did continue our great partnership with DPSCD, their Cultural Passport Program. This is all second graders coming to the museum for field trips. Last year in 21, we did that virtually. We're back to in-person for second graders and DPSCD for this calendar year of 2022. So we were happy to sort of be able to keep that up even when school groups weren't gathering in schools or in the museum. And that passport program also includes learning resources that go with it for all the second graders. And those are co-created with five second grade teachers in the DPSCD school system. We also continue to have our educator and student resources, which is teacher professional development. I think we have teacher appreciation coming up.
It was this weekend.
It was last Saturday. So we're returning as much of the teacher PD to in-person from the virtual format that we had to pivot to during the pandemic. Of course, additional resources for schools include the Art Bite video series, resources connected to exhibitions, lesson plans for use in the classroom, and our DIA delivered resource kit. So you can get more information on all of these, the full teacher PD schedule from 2021 in the longer form report in your folder. All told, we had a little over 1,600 students come on free field trips in 21, and we had 9,700 students take advantage of the virtual field trip format. Moving on to seniors, in 2021, we continued our virtual Thursdays at the Museum program. That was a program that you could log on to every Thursday at 1 o'clock. It basically mimicked the in-person program that we had mounted and executed before the pandemic. So that was every Thursday, 1 o'clock. You could log in. Each Thursday of the month was a different activity, films, artist demonstrations instead of art making, and talks about the collection. In October, we started bringing seniors back to the museum for in-person experiences. Like the school program, those were self-guided experiences in the museum. So you can see, I guess I don't have the number on this. It's in the long form report, how many groups we had come in 21. We have a lot more coming in 2022. And this year, we're also adding back in docent tours. So school senior groups can come, free transportation for groups of 25 or more, a docent-led tour. We also maintained virtual programs. So we had our behind-the-scene talks that we used to do in the community. We had 24 of those held virtually. And then at the end of 21, we were able to start bringing those back live in the community. So we did 8 near the end of the year. That is still an option for seniors. So they can do the Thursdays at the museum virtual. They can book a free field trip to come to the museum with a docent. They could have behind the scene virtually for their group, or they can have a behind the scene art talk at their location with a trained docent. Moving on to community partnership programs. We were fortunate to be able to finish the Partners in Public Art project in the city of Plymouth, and also our Partners in Public Art project on the Avenue of Fashion, which Hubert's quite familiar with. What you're looking at the bottom of this page is his design. So we'll be celebrating the completion of that now that we have fairer weather. Originally, we thought we would cut that ribbon in January, and it turned out to be about 20 degrees that day. So we'll be doing it when people are out and about and warm.
Michigan weather.
Yeah. Inside Out, of course, continued in 2021, and you can see the locations there where we had that project. You may notice that Sharon Harrell isn't with us today. She is the Community Engagement Manager for Wayne County. She has been very busy last week, this week, and next week installing Inside Out for our 2022 roster. And then, of course, we extended the agreement with the Warren C. Evans Terminal at Detroit Metropolitan Airport. We're in conversation with right now with the folks there about refreshing some of the images and updating a few of the vignettes. So we're happy to continue our presence there. I won't go through all of the other things that we did for community partnership programs. You see a list of partners here on this slide, and then you can get more information and detail about those specific programs in the longer form report. So slide 7 just sort of reiterates that this is the 2020 year-end or 2021 year-end review meeting. We continue to communicate through the County Connections e-newsletter. Everyone should be receiving that and sharing that every quarter. And then in our last meeting, the group authorized the audit for 2020. So that is also in your report. That was published by Plant Moran. And that is the review of the same sort of activity we just talked about, except for the calendar year 2020. So just a little bit of detail at a very high level, because the museum was impacted by COVID, the school program, we had a shortfall in spending of a little over $31,000. We also had a shortfall for seniors of about $62,000 and a shortfall in community partnership programs of $157,000. So those are based on our commitment of 150 for schools, 100 for seniors, and 300,000 for community partnerships. that underspend will roll over into the commitment for 2021. That is supported by the letter of agreement that we authored together early in the pandemic. Also, I just detailed in there the kinds of the general categories of allocations for the audit and for our performance in each service agreement category. So these amounts will roll over, they will be added to the 2021 commitment. And then if there's a continued shortfall from 2021, that rolls into 2022. And then just a note, and this is based on the understanding of 10 years of service, was that the current service agreement term was through December of 2022. And then it details what the understanding on a 10-year millage, the new agreement term would have been, but we've discussed that at length here today. So just making note of that on the slide. And then I think we still have Judith. I'm not sure if we still have Judith online.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, so I was going to turn it over to Judith Dolkhart. She's our Deputy Director of our Education and Programs, just to walk through the last few slides of current and upcoming exhibitions.
Thank you all. Good morning. I'm delighted to share with you some of the exhibitions that are on view, and I want to underscore that some of them are closing soon. So I hope you'll come see them before they close. In the upper left is Shirley Woodson Shield of the Nile Reflections, and this exhibition closes on June 12th. Shirley Woodson's solo exhibition presents her vibrant, dreamlike paintings of Black bathers in rivers and honors the diasporic myth that the Nile holds transformative and nurturing benefits for people of African descent. In her series, Woodson's bathers appear with a distinctive visual vocabulary of human and animal life that symbolizes the historic, spiritual, and cultural significance of the river. As many of you know, Shirley is a hero in Detroit as a renowned Detroit artist, educator, and advocate. And the show is just really beautiful, colorful, and energetic. Then to the right, by her hand, Artemisia Gentileschi and women artists in Italy, 1500 to 1800. This show closes later this month. The exhibition takes as a point of departure one of the DIA's great treasures, Judith and Her Maidservant with the Head of Holofernes by Artemisia Gentileschi. And it explores the roles and works of women artists from 1500 to 1800. And many of them are largely unknown and have only recently been discovered by art historians. Beyond Artemisia, the public will be introduced to a diverse and dynamic group of Italian women artists throughout Italy and how they negotiated their artistic work with their lives at home or in convents or in any of the variety of places where they lived and worked. Then finally on this page, Detroit Style, which closes on June 5th. This exhibition highlights the artistry and influence of Detroit car designers working between 1950 and the present day. The show includes 12 cars that demonstrate significant achievements in style and technology. The cars include unique examples of experimental show cars created for display and iconic production models which were sold to the mass market. The design drawings, which are around the perimeter of the room, allow visitors to imagine the creative and innovative processes that bring a car from the drawing board to the street. And next slide. We have up right now also the 85th annual Detroit Public Schools Community District Student Exhibition. The show is absolutely incredible, and I hope if you're in the museum, you'll stop by the Weber Education Wing to see the creations from elementary school to high school. We were lucky to have this back in person this year after a 2-year all online presentation. It was wonderful to have the kids in the building to receive their awards. I hope you'll come see the show. And then upcoming, opening June 26th and running through July 31st, we're having our first ever Wayne-wide high school art show. The kids have submitted their work online through a portal, and it's been juried, and we're excited to begin to install that work and present it to the public. Is that it? Or is there one more? Oh, two more. Good. Okay. And then finally, I want to signal Van Gogh in America. This exhibition opens October 2022 and runs into early January or into January of 2023. This exhibition celebrates the 100th anniversary of the DIA's acquisition of Van Gogh's self-portrait, which was a very daring thing to do in 1922. There will be approximately 75 works by Van Gogh in the galleries, a once in a generation type of presentation that will show how Van Gogh came to be appreciated and collected in the United States. And needless to say, we're all very excited to see that and the breadth of works coming from all over the world for this exhibition. Thank you.
So that sort of concludes, wraps up the 2021 year end. Also, you know, I think it's the second item was the 2020 audit, which we talked about on the slide before the exhibition. So we're happy to answer any questions about 2020, 2021, 2022.
So I'm looking at all of the schools that did visits either virtually or in person. And according to the paperwork that you submitted, it shows that 1,655 students went on free field trips from July to October 21. And what you have listed here is 168 schools. So that's about 10 students per school. But we know that all of the schools did not participate. I would like to see in future reports and also with this report, a backup of which schools actually visited the museum, how many students from each school were there. I think that's very important to the report. And as Barb Miller has stated time and time again, we don't have any feedback. We don't have any feedback from the students. We don't have any feedback from the teachers. So as we move forward to design what this new millage looks like, we don't know if it's working. All we have is a report saying what you did. We don't know if the kids like it. We don't know if the kids appreciate it. We don't know if the teachers like it, if the teachers appreciate it.
So we have an evaluation department that does surveys, so we can get that information and compile that into a report. And I just do want to make sure, because we're doing a few things here, the longer list, starting on page 12, those are the virtual field trip groups. The shorter list that is only page 16, those are the in-person field trip groups.
Okay, so with the virtual field trips, I still would like to see, you know, with virtual field trips, you still have to log on. I still would like to see how many people are actually logging on per school, because you have that access. It still lets us know how many children are seeing what this is.
Yeah, and I can pull as much information as we have on that. The standard for field trips has always been the amount of students they reserved for.
Sure.
So
if you have to get that information from the teachers, that's fine. However you have to do
Sure.
it. I just, we have no way of knowing if the Mason Academy and if only 2 kids log on. So as we start to talk about the future of the village and what is working and what is not working, if we're only having 2 students log on from this school and 2 students from that school log on, perhaps that is not an effective way to communicate with these schools on visiting the DIA. So again, I would like to see how many students actually logged on, and maybe that should be a requirement that you put out there for the teachers or the principal as you guys are doing that. I'm not saying it's the responsibility of the DIA to count the students. Perhaps that needs to be the responsibility of the school, and they could just submit that to you because we would like to see that, because we don't know how well it's going. And you said on page 16, these are the schools that actually
Those are the schools that came for in-person.
sure, and then again, I would like to see those numbers for each school, whether it was 4, 5, 10. It's 30 of them on this page, and you said that 1,655 students attended.
So this takes out duplicates. So if a school came twice, you're only seeing your new ones. So, but I do understand what you're looking for, and probably within the next, I'm gonna say 7 to 10 days, I'll generate a new report with the information.
And if a school did visit twice, we would like to know that too. Just
Sure.
so you know. Okay. Thanks. Oh, and one more, if I could. I've asked this question on a couple of meetings over the last year. Sharon Harrell, she represents Wayne County as the community engagement manager. Again, I don't know if she's ever attended a meeting here, maybe once. And I know that as a whole, you guys give the feedback from the DIA as a whole, but we are the Wayne County Arts Authority, and she represents Wayne County, and we would like to hear from her as we hear from you. She is she represents us. So, well, she represents you on behalf of us or vice versa. And I'm not sure that she's on the call today. We've only seen her maybe at one meeting in the last year, maybe even 2 years for every meeting that we have. And if we have questions for her, we can't ask her directly. We have to go through you and possibly get the response from you that we think that you think she might
So I will say her contact information is on this slide here. So you have her phone
I
number.
appreciate that, and I
email.
would appreciate her being in the meetings.
Sure.
For Wayne County. Thank you.
Yeah, no, our intention is that she attend all of these. She's installing it inside out today. So I didn't want to disrupt that.
We are all busy, but when it comes to something like this, and we're talking about the engagement of the community, this is important to us. This authority is important to all of us because we represent the residents. And if we can't ever ask her questions, because like I said, she's only attended one meeting in the last 2 years, or maybe 2, that is still a concern to us, because yes, I can call her and get her voicemail and hope that she responds, but it's different than us being able, for me, to be able to ask her questions directly. That may not be important to anybody else on this board, but it is important to me that I be able to ask questions directly without leaving a message, waiting 2 or 3 days for a response. And then if I have a response to her, the response, that's another 2 or 3 days, and she could have, that's all I'm saying. That's just a concern to me.
Yeah, she'll be at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Tim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for the report from the DIA.
I have something on that report before we go further.
I do too.
Okay, go ahead. I thought you were going to another subject. Sorry,
Um,
go ahead.
Getting the training back on track here. As we digest the service agreement and what this board's interest is in that for future service agreements. One thing I've been watching a little bit, and we are discussing reaching out to the nonprofit art groups around the county. And I raised at that time, we have this whole thing about how we interact with schools. We have had kits go out to teachers that have been discussed a lot at this table. The discussion almost always comes up that I know somebody in this school that doesn't get any DIA, sometimes BPS school somewhere else. So here's what I'm suggesting. As the committee that's looking into the service agreement does their work, I think we should specifically invite for testimony the people that we are serving out there. the principals and the teachers that are directly involved in this and let them give us feedback as to the efficacy and see how it fits what they're doing. Because I think we need to have that. As was said, maybe reports here doesn't necessarily do that. So I think we should be reaching out to people that we are interacting with, in particular with the curriculum work that we're doing, as well as the teacher kits and how effective it is in your classroom. Okay, so you've had either a direct visit to the DIA or you've done it virtually. What do you feel is the value of that? I think we should hear right from the people that are getting served as this committee, as this board digest that. I'll also comment that as I track the reports in curriculum development, and I'll also fall back on my own 15-year history as a teacher in Detroit Public Schools teaching high school science. The State Board of Education lays out a curriculum for all the schools in the state. And it goes through grade by grade and almost week by week, the curriculum to be offered in the classrooms. As I follow these reports, I'm aware, and maybe we also need to hear from the school districts, right? That, and this is my impression, and I'm not asking for a response from the DIA on this, that we talk to school districts and we say, okay, curriculum development, what are your needs? And I'm sure some of these districts are saying things, but I want to hear it directly from them. Like their response to the DIA is, well, we could help, we could use some help for our 3rd and 4th grade curriculum. We're really not interested in the 9th grade curriculum. And so between the administration of these school districts and the DIA, some agreements are developed in terms of where do you need help with curriculum? And then the school districts will say, this is where we need help. But I think we should also verify that as we try to digest through these public meetings, the efficacy of what we're doing out there. And I think this board will not get a good picture of exactly that, and unless we hear from the end user, if I can say it that way, because I'd like to know what the administration of DPS thinks of the relationship. I'm interested in hearing from the DIA, but I'm also interested in hearing from the end user, and that may provide some help to this board as we talk about the future service agreement. I'll also say that the chief of staff of the commission just flagged me down. There's a meeting scheduled in this room in 25 minutes. The health choice board, they didn't think that there necessarily would be a problem, but I just want people to keep that in mind, that another board is meeting in this room. I don't think that's going to be a problem for us, but we got another agenda item to get through and public comment. So just hopefully, Madam Chair, we keep that in mind. But I do think we need to reach out to these schools, to these teachers, to these principals, and even principals that decline that they want to participate. Let's find out from them why they do that. Is there something about this that's not good, or is it just a practical thing? I think that needs to be part of the public testimony. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I have a question. How you rotate schools and give other schools a chance of the every year?
So we fulfill, field trip requests for whoever calls. There is not a limitation.
So the principal has to call.
So our group reservations department takes reservations. So whoever wants to fill out that application or call, whether it be a principal or a teacher.
But how do they get that information? That's what how does one school get the information to call?
So it's on our website. We also have an Edu News newsletter that details.
I'll talk to you later. I have a problem with school. Thank you. Okay, moving on, so where are we now?
Approval of the audit, sir.
Okay, so. Yeah.
Ready?
Oh, no, she. That's in there. Thank you. We're an audit firm, so you're gonna talk about that, Marie?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Last week, was it? We were, Betty and I and Marcy from, Cora from Wayne County reviewed, two proposals that were, submitted for audit services for the Art Authority. We went through all of the, proposals, and we found that they were both, very, qualified to do the audit for us. We did break it down into a few things that, just to help us out a little bit. They both have 35 years experience. The project understanding, they're both familiar with taxing authorities. And as far as the project approach, we believe that they both have the ability to do that. I do know that the Gregory Terrell Company was one, and the LNC Young. The Gregory Terrell Company actually based their first year on 44 hours of service for the 4-year commitment. We didn't get that. We got a based on efficient hours proposal from LNC Young, and I was hoping that we actually get a base on that. So they were marked down a little bit on that. And then project fees. The Gregory Terrell was $5,600 more than the LNC Young firm, and that was a big one. And then also on the social media, I did look that up, and we got Gregory Terrell received 1 Google review, 4 stars, and the LNC Young received 6, 4.3 stars. So based on all the information that we looked through, we decided that we would like to recommend that the LNC Young firm be the auditors for Art Authority. Do you have any questions?
I'll second that recommendation from the committee.
Shall we vote on that?
Was that a motion in the form of a motion?
Sure.
Motion to recommend the Allen Young firm?
Some seconded.
Any more discussion?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The opposition, no. Okay. Motion passed. So, approval of amended budget, did you cover that as well?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We did have, as in the last minutes, we there. And so I was uncertain about that, but we do need to amend the budget to reflect the company we just hired. So I went back to the budget that is on our website that this board approved, added in, and I don't remember the exact number, 6,000. It's a 4-year agreement with Allen Young that over the next 4 years. And it's roughly $6,900 a year. And I don't remember the exact number. It's in the budget, $6,980.
$69.50, and it does go up a little bit every year.
Yeah, it goes up a little bit. But in the first year, I amended our budget for this year. Or I am proposing an amended budget that that adds in to our budget officially the $6,950 for this year. And of course, in succeeding years, that number will be in the annual budget that this body will decide on. So I would move approval of the amended budget.
Second on that.
I'll second it, but I have some discussion. I would like to add the issue of, or an amount for parking for the board members. I mean, we're paying $20 for parking now. And I'd like to add the expense of a paid secretary to record the minutes submitted to me then for approval. So those are my two requests to add to the budget.
Well, these are part of the amendments, is that correct?
I see it. Oh, you do have parking expenses.
Yeah. And when we approved the budget originally, I threw, we struggled on and off through time here with people paying to exorbitant downtown parking. So I did leave that. In the budget. In the past, we have asked people to bring us their little ticket from the parking that we can submit, and that doesn't always happen. No.
Can I email those to you?
What if we don't have them?
But that's what we need to do, because we have to turn into the treasurer any expenses of this board. We have to notify the treasurer to deduct those expenses, any reasonable, and I forget the other legal term for that, reasonable and necessary expenses, so that they deduct that amount and return it to people on the board that are doing the parking, or for that matter, to pay the check for an audit firm that we may hire. And so we will need people to turn in those receipts to the treasurer of this board. And the treasurer of this board then needs to make sure that that is communicated to the Wayne County treasurer, who cuts the check to the DIA after reasonable and necessary expenses of this board. So we just needed more of a clear procedure for how to do that, and that everyone understands, because it's kind of been in bits and pieces, and then people just wind up sending it to me if we get them at all. So that is in the budget. We do have that, and so that's what needs to be done. So I would say to satisfy that, we already have it in the budget. To satisfy that, I guess I would say that board members that are paying for parking that need reimbursement, that those receipts for their parking have to go to the board treasurer, so that that can be communicated with the Wayne County Treasurer office.
And then for the recorded secretary.
Yeah.
I'm very bad at your channel, the last week. Okay.
Are we voting at this time? So we voted for the approval of the amended budget at this time.
And then, I'll motion. Make the motion?
Yeah.
It was seconded by Tim, right?
And then.
Yeah, Tim made the motion. Oh, did you?
And then Maria's, Barb second with.
I seconded it, right.
All those in favor.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. I think board secretary raised the question of paying for the minute taker.
Yes,
Is that correct?
that is correct.
And I don't believe that's part of the motion yet. So
That's not part of the clerk's budget.
it's part of our budget. So I'm not objecting, I'm just saying practically, we have to, if we hire somebody to do the minute taking, that has to be reflected in our budget. And that amount then, because it's part of our budget as a necessary or whatever expense of this board, then that amount will also be deducted from the amount that is transferred out of the millage to the DIA. So we need a clear path on how to do that. So my question was, do we have a proposal for hiring some such person?
I'm kind of confused. So the authority clerk is not our minute taker then? Is part of the Art Institute budget amendment that we have here on this last page?
We tried early on to hire commission staff, which is what was discussed earlier, that we are not Wayne County. We are separate from Wayne County. The clerk, who has been running the computer and going through the agenda, has been doing her own set of minutes. But the set of minutes that we look at are the ones that we get from our recording secretary. And I have discouraged commission staff from taking their precious time.
So we could reverse that person, correct?
That would take some legal niceties, I would think, in order to do that. Because we used to, when John Pfeiffer was the chief of staff, way back when we started, we had some discussions there. We'd even drawn up a contract with that. But then that also involves the chair of the Wayne County Commission to say, okay, I authorize that. What I would say here is we have $1,200 slot in the budget under authority clerk, that if we wanted to amend the budget to say we're going to leave $1,200 in there for a minute taker, then that's an easy switch. No. She has been doing that out of the kindness of her own heart. But the minutes, like the minutes we approved today, were the minutes taken by our secretary, recording secretary of the board.
So through the chair, if I may,
Please.
it is a part of my Amina Spivey commission staff. It is part of my responsibility to record the meetings and also to write minutes for the meetings that I clerk. So I always have meeting minutes on hand. So that is a part of my responsibility. Yes.
And that has been approved by the chief of staff.
I'll defer to Commission Counsel.
Yeah.
Okay. Through the chair to this body, so the county commission has, since your inception, been clerking your meetings, and the county commission has provided staff for your meetings. As Commissioner Kling mentioned, at one point there was discussion, and I don't know if a contract was actually entered into with its separate individual staff, which we determined was not appropriate. Now, whether or not the county commission continues and you pay the county commission some nominal amount for the individual's time is something that we can definitely have a discussion with the commission chair. We've actually had those discussions over the years, including the court counsel, regarding this very issue. And actually, there's her boss. I don't know if you want to chime in. But yes, just similar to what the clerk does for county commission meetings, they record them. You'll be recorded on Zoom. There will be a tape recording of it. She'll have minutes, and then we'll post those minutes in accordance with law, because you know you are required by law to keep those minutes for a certain amount of time and to make sure they're made available to the public. So that is a part of the regular duties that the clerks do for the commission, and that they've been doing for your body without compensation, which could be discussed.
So I think, given that, Madam Chair, I think we need an affirmative statement from the chair of the commission that this is part of the duties. I don't know if there's any reimbursement that can go along with that. But I think because there was an actual contract that was drawn up for Mr. Pfeiffer 8 or so years ago. But that ran into a lot of legal discussions about whether, outside work, doing it off commission is commission time in order to do that. So I think all of this will take, we have a place in the budget. I think all of this will take is a blessing from the chair of the commission to say, okay.
Well, can we say that the Art Authority would be willing to reimburse the county for the time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll find out then if that
We have she has
is even possible, but yeah.
attorney.
Wisconsin has-
You're the chair, man. Yeah, call on it.
And to clarify, the chairwoman has authorized clerk staff to clerk your meetings, otherwise she would not be sitting here now. So just so you know, that authorization has already been given.
Okay.
So we could reimburse her hourly salary, correct? For the time spent on our.
I'll say if you authorize the chairperson or someone, we can have that discussion about what that payment would be, because it wouldn't be a direct payment to her, it would be coming to the commission. So that number would need to be addressed and negotiated with the chair of the commission. But yes, that reimbursement could take place.
All right, thank you.
Well, and Madam Chair, that's what I was looking for, the direct communication with the chair to clarify all of this.
Chair, should we change that $1,200 number that says authority clerk? Should we change that to reflect additional reimbursement?
That line is there for this specific purpose. I think what is missing there is the communication the chair of our board is going to have with the chair of the commission board, and to see what that actual number may be.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much.
On a per annum basis.
So we approved this audit. We've already done that.
We're ready for public comment.
No, we have to approve the amended budget. We have a motion
Oh,
on the
right.
floor.
I thought we had a motion.
We do, we have a motion that's been seconded, and then we have discussion.
And we need to vote. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carried. On to such other matters may be submitted. I just want to thank all those in the room that have helped us from the county, and I'm impressed with each and every one of you. Okay, public comment. Is there any public comment?
For the record, everyone has been asked to unmute themselves that are on Zoom.
Madam Chair, since we're in the Zoom environment, could you read parameters of what public comment constitutes?
Individuals will be allowed 3 minutes to provide comments. You may provide public comments in person or Zoom. Please include your comment. All comments will be read by the clerk unless the individual personally provides a comment. There will be no response to public comments. Is there any public
I
comment?
would like to make a few public comments. This is Steve Panton of Detroit, Michigan. So I'm very heartened by the emphasis on the service agreement. I'm very heartened by the intention to engage the public in the process of defining the requirements of the service agreement. I can say from my professional experience that collecting customer requirements of this type is actually a very difficult process to do well. And I think it's unlikely that you're going to get the quality of requirements in a single meeting. I think there's also somewhat of a reinvention of the wheel here. I don't think you're the first group that needs to collect requirements from a demographically diverse population. I think if you go to organizations like Healthy Democracy and so on, they've put actually quite a lot of work into developing processes to get feedback that is demographically representative across a demographically diverse population. So I think your first step is to look at what's already been done there. I don't think that going to through a list of arts or organizations is really a good first step. I think that's sort of an inherent bias in the process. I think the thing that you always need to start every discussion about this, the role of the Art Institute Authority, is with numbers. I think you're going to be transferring, close to $10 million a year, $100 million over a 10-year period. Just as a reference point, the state of Michigan's funding for arts and culture, that's to all arts and culture organizations across the whole state, is just over $10 million. So one county, which is the county of Wayne, is giving to one institution approximately the same amount of money as the entire state gives to all arts organizations. So the people of Wayne County, I think, can reasonably expect a spectacular level of service. I think there's also something that I'm not seeing in the process, which is, so if I look at, I'm just looking at my property taxes, if I look in the middle, there's something there for trash collection. I, as a taxpayer, assume that somewhere in the system, there are people that understand this industry, that understand the financial structure of this industry, that are going to be involved in writing up the service agreements and contracts, but they do it from a place of knowledge. And I can, of course, as a taxpayer, give my opinion as to what needs to happen, but there does need to be some people in the room that have domain knowledge in terms of what reasonably can be expected from what in your own documents is described as a world-class art institution. And
Sir, you have reached your time limit for speaking. Thank you.
Anyone else on public comments? Feel free to speak on Zoom. I don't see any hands.
Yes, I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Halima Casells. I just want to say thank you. I made a comment last meeting about public process, and I'm also very, I feel very good that, that's being incorporated, and I would love to stay involved. And so thank you so much.
Thank you for your interest. Any other public comment? Any other further comment, public comment? I didn't get any emails.
Oh, no.
I don't see any other hands on Zoom. So you want to do a last call for public comments on Zoom?
Did you have any comments, Mark?
No comments have been emailed.
Okay, all right then. We have a meeting to adjourn.
A motion to